to order the City Council of the City of Chattanooga. For our Pledge of Allegiance today, we have Vice Chairwoman Knoll.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You all will bow your heads for a word of prayer. Gracious and wise God, we thank you for this day and for the opportunity to serve our community. As we gather to discuss and decide on matters that will shape the fiscal year ahead, we ask for your guidance. Grant us wisdom, integrity, courage to make just decisions, and compassion to prioritize the needs of all our residents, especially the most vulnerable among us. Help us to lead with clarity, unity, and vision, and may our efforts today bring lasting good to our city. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that. Council, may I get a motion on the minutes, please? Thank you. Minutes will stand. Okay, guys, let's get into our agenda for today. We're going to be reviewing our ordinances on final reading first. If anybody has any questions, please hit your light. Okay. Tonight, moving into first reading, we do have planning items. Do we have any comments or questions? Okay. We'll be hearing from the applicants and any opposition as needed. Resolutions tonight, Council, we have 3 resolutions under Council office. My intent is to take those as a package. If anybody has any concern about that, please hit your light. Okay, economic development. We have 4 resolutions under economic development. We have items D, E, F, and G. My intent is to take those as a package. Do we have any questions or concerns? Okay. Human resources, we have some changes to the egg, for which we got that cool video. Mayor's office, we have several resolutions for reappointments and appointments. I will take those as a package unless I hear from you that that is going to be a problem. All right, looks like we're good. Arts and outdoors, we have an item there, and we have 2 public works resolutions. I will take those 2 as a package. All right, looks good there. Okay, Council, let's jump over to purchases for this evening. We have 4 purchases being requested this evening. We do not have any renewals. We do not have any RFP format recommendations. We do not have any emergency purchases, but we do have 1 sole source purchase to announce tonight. If you have any questions or comments about those items, go ahead and hit your light. Looking good, okay. Y'all, this council has done a lot of heavy lifting already today. We've been in budget education sessions led by Chairwoman Dotley since 9 a.m. And it's been a great conversation. Okay, council, let's pop back over then and take a look at our 2-week agenda, please. This is for Tuesday, May 20th. I will remind everyone that this council will not meet on May 27th in observance of Memorial Day. Consequently, we have some items on final reading that we'll work on tonight, but we will not have any items on first reading next week. Also next week, we will have the public hearing for the FY26 operations and capital budget. Okay, Council, for resolutions, we have items for economic development in the mayor's office. We also have Parks and Public Works items, Public Works, Police. We have the retirement of the service dogs who may attend if they are not on personal leave already. They might be at the beach. I don't know. Okay, we're going to be giving a 1999 Ford E350 van to Habitat, which I thought was pretty cool. Let's talk about vintage. It's very vintage. Okay. Council, I don't see any lights for anybody. Looks like we're good for our 2-week agenda. So let's take a look at future considerations, please. Give everybody a second to get there. We're affirming some relationships with youth athletic associations. We have our budget items. Some renewals. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? We have several items related to our final allocations of ARPA dollars as well. Okay. Council, looks like we have everything squared away. So I am going to hand the mic over to my esteemed colleague Jeff Davis from the great District 3 to lead us in a Parks and Public Works Committee.
All right, I'll call this meeting of the Parks and Public Works Committee to order. The minutes from our last meeting on April 15th have been published. Are there any corrections or questions about those minutes? Okay, the minutes will stand as published. Our first order of business then will be to have a mayoral proclamation recognizing National Public Works Week. And so we'll invite Jeremy Woods, our Administrator of Public Works, to the podium for that.
Good afternoon, members of council. I'd like to introduce the National Public Works Week. So the National Public Works Week is an annual celebration started in 1960 and recognizes the efforts of public works professionals and their countless contributions to communities. The theme for 2025 is People, Purpose, and Presence. This emphasizes our priorities dedicated to making communities safer, more vibrant, and a better place to live for all. Whether serving as first responders, responding to utility outages or natural disasters, providing regular waste pickup, or making roads and sidewalks passable after a winter weather event, Public Works is always there when people need them. Our sense of purpose is fulfilled when the people are taken care of. Public Works professionals are ever present, working in the background and forefront to enhance everyone's quality of life. Your Public Works professionals are truly one team building one Chattanooga. And for the proclamation, the City of Chattanooga Office of the Mayor Proclamation. Whereas Public Works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the supportive and understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water quality, streets and highways, public buildings, and solid waste collection. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works officials. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, I, Tim Kelly, Mayor of the City of Chattanooga, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th through May 23rd to be National Public Works Week, People, Purpose, Presence. In the City of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I call upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Chattanooga to be affixed this 6th day of May, 2025. Signed, Tim Kelly, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, and thank you for all the hard work that you and your teams do every day for us.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure. Thank you, sir.
All right. Our next order of business, we have, I believe, Mark Heinzer and Maria Price here to give us a report on our stormwater system performance.
Good afternoon, Council.
Hello?
Can you hear me okay? So one of the great partnerships we experience with the city is between Public Works and Wastewater. Wastewater used to be part of Public Works, but now they've broken out, but we still, one Chattanooga, we all work together, so we are going to team do this presentation. So I get the pleasure of going first, so bear with me. I am the Assistant City Engineer, the Stormwater Division Director with Public Works. So we're going to talk about the rain event that happened May 2nd and 3rd, a couple weeks ago, that I'm sure everyone here at least has seen something on the news about. So the city of Chattanooga experienced a very intense event from May 2nd through 3rd. The majority of the intense rainfall happened in the Hickson area and in East Brainerd, but Hickson was the most dramatically affected. So at one point, they had 2.65 inches that fell over 2 hours. So that's equivalent to a 10-year, 2-hour rain event. So instead of, usually when you think about that, you think of the rainfall happening over 24 hours, but it didn't. It happened in 2 hours. So that's a lot of rain coming down at one time. So on that Friday, our most affected areas that received almost 3 inches of rain in 2 hours were Forest Plaza, Strawberry Lane, and Highway 153 at Hamel. I'm sure you probably saw these pictures on the news. This is on State Route Tennessee 153 at Hamel Road around 7 p.m. on Friday. Not a good situation. So this is a state route. It was inundated. There were only 2 lanes open for traffic. TDOT was out there doing the traffic control. This was a flash flood, so pretty much everywhere else the water receded, but it did not recede here. So TDOT reached out to Public Works, again, another great partnership, and asked for our help. So we have a bigger pump than they had access to, and we also had the staff that could direct them as far as when they're pumping this water, where to pump it so that it doesn't just go right back into the system. So very important, little things we don't always think about. So while they were out there, one of the pieces of TDOT equipment, they had a backhoe that was just scraping around on one of the ditches, just trying to get something moving, seeing if he could jar something loose. We weren't sure, what the problem was at that point. And so we think that that may have done something and moved something, because then it started to drain and the water receded. So we still don't know exactly what happened there. Again, this is a TDOT issue, but we are taking our responsibility seriously on our maintenance side. So staff have already walked all the ditch lines, and those are all clear from blockages, so we've checked the whole area. So the next step is to get a camera and get a look at what's happening underground in those pipes to make sure that there's not going to be any problems that could cause something similar in the future. So that's in process there. Forest Plaza is an interesting situation. So in this area, there was street and private property flooding. The conveyance that runs through this property is actually a stream. It was not mapped, which means it wasn't shown as being part of a floodplain when this area was developed, so the developer was allowed to build houses right next to the conveyance. So he paved this channel, and so now you can see, is there a pointer on here? These point. Yes. So you can see here, this is the 500-year flood in this little light area, and then a little bit more blue is this 100-year flood. And so the dark blue shown here is the floodway. What that essentially means is this is the area that the stream is likely to take up. This is the area that you can expect the water to be. And if you'll look, there are houses within this floodway area. Not a good situation, but again, when this was developed, this wasn't mapped, so we didn't have any way to provide guidance otherwise. So on this one, we haven't yet, but this is on the list to walk and remove blockages to make sure that there's nothing that we can do to help this situation from happening again. Strawberry Lane, similar situation. It does have a stream that flows through. This is the conveyance that was problematic. It caused some street flooding in this area, and this actually has also been mapped as a stream. I looked up on TDEC's data viewer, and sure enough, it shows that section is a stream. We have not incorporated it onto our flood maps yet because that just ends right here at Hamel Road. So we have all these little reaches and fingers and ditches that are actually streams all over the city that we haven't mapped, but we're getting there. So on this one, kind of a side note, wasn't the instance for this one, but in some other areas there were debris in the ditches obstructing the flow. And the one example I noted here just shows how common this is and how we don't think about things. You always hear, don't put your leaves in the ditch. There's a reason. So in this one instance, there was a couch that had been placed out for pickup, but it had managed to fall off into the ditch. And so it was causing an obstruction and blocking the ditch, but the property owner realized that and moved it. But those type of things happen, so please keep your stuff out of the ditch. It serves a purpose. So on this, we also are going to walk and remove blockages. So what's the city doing to mitigate this flood risk? We have several city programs that are designed to help divert water from the storm system. So generally when it rains, water either sheet flows from the streets into inlets, it falls on roofs, which go into roof drains on your gutter system, which a lot of times are also routed into the storm system. So that all collects and it gets into the pipes, which just go straight to the river. As we saw, sometimes the rain falls a little faster than the pipes have room for, which is exactly what happened in what's causes flash flooding. When you have flash flooding, that means you're gonna get a whole lot of rain all at once. And there's a risk that the systems in place are not gonna be able to move that away from these areas quick enough, and you are gonna end up with standing water, which is exactly what happened in this event. So we have several programs, including our rain barrel program, and FYI, distribution day is June 7th. There's still plenty of time. If you'd like to just go to our website and sign up, you can pick up your rain barrel on June the 7th. It's discounted. And we have our Rain Smart program, which has several facets, and that is designed to help homeowners either disconnect their roof drains. We'll show them how to build a rain garden, and in a lot of cases, we actually have a rebate program where we will reimburse them for the funds they use to create these rain gardens. But the thought is, just like green infrastructure, low-impact development, I'm sure we've all heard low-impact development as a buzzword, the guise of that is to treat the water where it falls. Because if your site can absorb it, it's not gonna just combine with everything else, which combines with everything else, which combines with everything else, which may affect your neighbors downstream before it gets to the river. One of our, we've got several capital separation projects happening. So as Mark will talk about in a moment, we have a combined sewer area downtown where we have the same pipe except stormwater and sewer, because we didn't know any better when Chattanooga was young. You know, we're like, oh, let's get it away as fast as possible. So we put them all in the same pipe, and we know that's not good now. And so as projects come up, as money allows, as we are able, we do these separation projects so that we have a separate pipe that takes the sanitary stuff to the wastewater treatment plant, and then the stormwater goes to the river. We also have a great partnership with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I mentioned flood mapping earlier. So we do a lot of work with them in our flood preparedness efforts. They do a lot of hydraulic modeling because we want to know what's happening, what are our systems doing, and they're looking at our actual streams and rivers, not necessarily the pipes that flow through your neighborhood. So through that, we have been able to update several of our FEMA flood risk maps. They used to just call them floodplain maps or flood maps, but now they have changed the terminology to risk maps, because that's what it's doing. It's showing you if you live in these areas, you have a higher risk or a lower risk of being impacted by these heavy rain events. And again, those are based on stream locations. And we have our stormwater asset management plan. I'm so excited about this. So we're finally to the point, we've gotten our submittals back from our RFQ. We're about to score those and get this project going. Part of what that will do is give us a more accurate, we have condition assessment on a lot of our systems throughout town. We have to based on our permit with TDEC. But we don't have really good condition assessment. Like, does this section have a joint that's shifted, that's causing problems, impeding flow, things like that. So this program will give us a better condition assessment, and it'll also do some capacity analysis, especially in some of those problem areas that we know of. And then it'll help us be proactive versus reactive. And we've all heard that a million times. I mean, it's everywhere from like $1 proactive is worth $4 reactive. Big difference. So to be fiscally responsible, we want to know where our problems are, where the big problems are, so we can get a better list of capital projects and start knocking those out so that we can be more proactive than reactive. All right, and that is it for me.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Mark Heinzer, and I am the Administrator for the Wastewater Department. We also were very involved in this event on May 2nd and 3rd. So we maintain a number of rain gauges throughout the city, as you can see here. This is a 48-hour look at the rain event from May 2nd to May 3rd. And again, you can kind of see the area that got hit the hardest during those 2 days. And you might wonder, why is wastewater, monitoring rain gauges? And the reason we do this is a couple of reasons. One, you've heard me talk about the consent decree, and the consent decree is really focused on the rain getting into the sanitary sewers and causing overflows. when those overflows happen, it's not just rainwater anymore, it's rainwater and sewage, and we don't want that. So in 2013, the consent decree identified that we needed to do a whole lot of infrastructure improvements to keep the mixed rainwater and wastewater out of our streams. And so that was the advent of the consent decree. And so as a result of that, we monitor all the area, the whole city for rainfall. And it does a couple of things apart from just keeping us in compliance with our consent decree. It also informs us on our pump stations. We have about 80 pump stations around the city. And there's a little bit of a lag between a rainfall versus when it gets to our pump station, when the water gets to our pump station. And so we can see ahead of time, we get a big rain event, we understand and we know the areas, and we can understand that our pump station's gonna have to activate a second or third pump, or we're gonna have to go do some bypass pumping or make sure that we've got generators on standby if there's power outages. So this kind of helps us operate our entire system, knowing where these different areas are at. So looking at the top 3 rain gauges from that event, this is a little bit busy with some graphs and charts, but really the thing to know is on those rainbow graphs there are just simply the 1, 2, 5, 10, 25, 50, and 100-year storm events as rainfall graphed. You can see where we fell in those events. So we were between a 5 and a 10-year event for the 2 hour. These are again looking at a 24-hour period, so they're a little bit misleading. But when we design for the wastewater system, the consent decree requires that we be able to handle a 2-year event. So that's not, that's on the lower end of this graph here. That's that second green line on this graph. That's our required design capacity from the consent decree. And we were above that for this rain event because as Maria mentioned, we were at a 10-year storm event for a shorter duration, which doesn't show up on these graphs, but it was much more intense. The benefit that we had with that higher intensity is that the water didn't have enough time to filtrate into the ground to get into our pipes. It actually didn't have time to do that, and it ran off and created flooding on the surface, which was a real problem for our residents, but it wasn't as big a problem for the wastewater. So a long sustained rain event is a little bit more problematic for us for the most part, unless you're looking at the combined system downtown, which is just a 4 square mile area that gets both no matter what's going on. So those areas, we've got some infrastructure in place for that. Again, looking at just in a spreadsheet kind of format, you can see kind of color coded what we were looking at 1 year, 2 year, 5 and 10 year storm events for the different durations of storms. And this is what we looked like on those days. This is our Ham Road Equalization Station facility, which came online around 2022, almost exactly 3 years ago. So each one of these tanks is 10 million gallons, so we got a total of 30 million gallons of storage, and this is activated whenever there is a heavy rain event. It's all controlled remotely from our operations center, where we can adjust pumps and valves and everything to make sure that these tanks are filling consecutively as the rain event comes up. And if I'll go back to this slide, all this water that's in those tanks, in history, it would have been in the Tennessee River there, which you can see just above. So these tanks have saved our river with millions of gallons of potential sanitary sewer overflows. We had all these tanks full on those days. We used them as much as we could. And since 2022, we've actually saved over 800 million gallons of sanitary sewer overflows from getting into the Tennessee River. So they've been hugely beneficial for the community in that regard. On top of that, we have 75 million gallons of storage at the wastewater treatment facility itself in our equalization basins. And again, we used as much as we could of these basins as well during this rain event. So with the 30 at Ham Road and the 75 here, we had over 100 million gallons that we kept out of the water conveyances, the streams and the creeks in Tennessee River. We were able to keep all that water out of there and get it to our treatment facilities. So that was the benefit of the consent decree and the efforts that we've made over the last 10 years with that consent decree to keep this water where it needs to go, which is to get treated. And that concludes the presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions for our presenters, council? Oh, yeah. Chairwoman Hill.
Thank you, Councilman. Maria and Mark, I appreciate you pulling this information together and doing it as quickly as you did. This event dramatically impacted the people of District 2 and the people of District 3. and in ways that were surprising. So it was very helpful to understand that this was a 10-year rain event, flash flooding event, because it definitely caused me to have concerns about, are we working, are our systems working as intended? Were they overwrought? And so it's helpful to understand that the sewer system behaved as intended. I'm amazed and grateful that the Ham Road station was full with 30 million gallons of water. And I'm so grateful that we have kept as much sewage out of the river as we have. Even so, we are having sewer overflows to continue in Bagwell City, particularly on Birmingham. We have a lot of raw sewage still coming up in storm events there. So I'd appreciate it if that's something that could remain on your radar, and we'll talk more about it offline.
Absolutely.
Maria, I'd like to better understand, please, the mapping point that you made. So you said that in Forest Highland, that the stream was not mapped when those homes were built. Is that because we weren't that the city or the county wasn't, or the Army Corps of Engineers wasn't creating flood maps in that area at that time? Help me understand that better.
Certainly. So we have a lot of conveyances in the city of Chattanooga that are streams. We're a very wet area. We have a lot of wildlife, a lot of shade, a lot of things that attribute to creating life in streams. So when we have developments come in, one thing they have to do, they have to get a hydrologic determination and determine if the conveyance going through their system is a stream or not. And some of them obviously aren't, but some might be. And then if it is a stream, there are additional requirements that are required during development to help protect those resources. As far as mapping goes, when the mapping was done, I don't know when our original maps were done, but it was like the Tennessee River. It was the big channels. It was North Chick. It was South Chick. It was some of those. And even in the last 20 years, we don't have good maps on some of those little reaches like Stringer's Branch, and some of them that have never been mapped before. It's not that we're putting these people in a floodplain. They've just never been shown on a map. And the reason we have those maps, as I mentioned, it's essentially an insurance tool. It's a risk map. It shows the percentage or the likelihood of a event happening in those areas. And then with development, we're not allowed to develop in the floodway. There's no development in the floodway. And in the 100-year, because we know there is a better chance that there may be problems, there are additional requirements when there is development in those areas to try to protect the public.
So with this neighborhood, it was built probably in the 60s. So what I'm hearing you say is that the stream was not on a map at that point, and the developer was allowed to concrete the stream bed, concrete the conveyance. And that is now a split easement, a stormwater easement in the middle of those yards, and we've had lots of conversations about that easement, and about the who's in charge of what happens in that conveyance. So are you saying that they are on insurance risk maps as being in a floodplain?
They are now, yes.
They are now, which was
and I don't know when, I did not look to see when that was effective, but it is on the current map.
Okay, and that was what where the neighbors had sent and said, we've received this, and look at our neighborhood, it has flooded for the first time. Okay, good to understand. So the Strawberry Lane example that you gave, that flood area is actually across Hamel Road from the residences. So the portion that's in the 500-year floodplain is where the sports barn and, some industrial property, where there isn't residential property there. But neighbors experience flooding that they haven't before with a combination of local area ditches, small ditches in their front yards, but then also, and we're having this in Bagwell City as well, where we've got storm grates that are covered in debris that people are having to go and remove. So I know in the budget proposal that stormwater has a litter, some kind of litter plan. Can you speak to that a little bit more
Certainly.
and help the council understand? Because I read that and I was like, so we're going to have litter crew? But it sounds like it's more than that as I read the narrative.
It is much more than that. So to back up just a little bit, so the city has a list of about 250 known hotspots, problem areas. Like these may be grates that do frequently fill up with debris, leaves or something like that, or just areas we know that cause problems that when we hear there's going to be a rain event, we're like, oh, this has come on our radar. We have a rain event. Let's go check these 250 hotspots. So we try to make sure those are available and not have any obstructions so that it will allow the water to flow through. What was your initial question?
I want to understand what the litter proposal is
yes.
within the budget proposal.
So there is a line item in budget for a litter master plan. We have installed the very first litter boom in the city of Chattanooga. It's on Chattanooga Creek, our namesake creek, and it has collected, I don't remember the total, but well over a ton, I think it's 1.5 tons of litter and debris from going into our river, which is huge. I mean, that would be going straight to the Tennessee River. So the thought is, and the mayor has encouraged more on the litter program, and we have Scenic Cities Beautiful as part of our stormwater program now. We have absorbed that as the grant went away, so we have absorbed that into Public Works, because they do have such great programs already set in place to do education on litter and things like that. So tagging onto that, we're like, okay, well, we need someone to tell us where we need to be putting litter catchments, litter booms, where it makes sense. We have an idea of where the hot spots are. We know where we get litter. We know where we get the reports. We know where the 311 calls all come to. And then we see, when we go out and do stream assessments and actually look at the health of our streams, we know where those problems are as well. So this will help us figure out, how do we address those? How do we deal with these problems? How do we keep this out of the river, which is the overall goal? And so it's not necessarily going to affect that particular grate.
Okay.
But as a whole, it will affect the amount of debris that comes from Chattanooga and goes on downstream.
Okay, so that's focused on keeping litter out of the river, not cleaning out storm grates and things that cause backups.
Correct. However, we do have we have added within the last year, two of the snuffleupagus, the vacuum trucks with the big hose that comes over to do more leaf collection and things like that, and litter pickup, so that it will try to help prevent a lot of that. We thought, okay, well, if we can get to it and remove it, then it's not going to go down into the river. So we're taking multi-steps of that. We're doing it on the side of the road with these trucks. We're going to put in installations perhaps in some catch basins around town, some of the inlets on the side of the road that may be problematic, like maybe it's next to a Taco Bell, no offense, and it ends up with a lot of garbage or something. So we're trying to figure out, where are those areas? Where are those hot spots? And then part of it too, with our litter boom installation, we use Osprey to do our maintenance. And as part of their removal process, they go through EPA's rubric and they categorize all of the debris. And the thought is, when we figure out where this is coming from, we can go to those people and invite them to the table. How do we keep this on your site? How do we keep this from washing into the creek and thus becoming a taxpayer burden?
Okay. One more question, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sure.
Ditches in people's yards are a regular question that I, and I'm sure my colleagues, receive about whose responsibility is it? And in the Strawberry Lane flooding, there are some relatively shallow ditches in people's front yards that they say were dug by the city 40 years ago. And there's the question of, if the city cut this into my yard 40 years ago, isn't it the city's job to keep this ditch in the front of my house clean? This is like a 12-inch deep, 18-inch deep ditch. And it's no different than ditches in every district in the community. And I know we've had big conversations about the conveyances and some others. So can you please talk us through, for people's knowledge, if you've got a ditch in your front yard or your backyard, whose job is it to keep that ditch clean?
Certainly. If it falls within the public space, be that an easement that says it's a public easement and the city is responsible for maintenance, or if it's in the right of way. So if it's in the street. And the case of Strawberry Lane, it looks like the ditches are within the right of way. So if you'll see the black lines, those are the property lines. And so you can see that they're on the outside, like they're in the same section that the street's in. So according to this, it looks like the front ditches, the street side ditches are indeed city property.
Okay.
So when that is the case, our stormwater inspectors will go out. They'll go out anyway whenever we get all the SRs. We're like, oh, let's talk to the person. Let's go find out what the problem is. Let's go look at it on site and see what we can do. And then if there is something that the city can do, we will definitely do that. So with ditches, we will walk and remove blockages. We can only use hand tools. We can't take equipment on a private property. So on those ditches that are on private property or not, we can still go through them and walk and remove blockages. If it's on the public space, we will then address that concern. If the ditch needs to be regraded, a lot of times what happens with the ditches, especially those in the backyards and the front yards, is they get silted in.
Yes.
I mean, we've all seen the muddy river. So that silt comes from somewhere and it goes somewhere. So we have a lot of it, a lot of those ditches have silted in and they don't drain like they should. They may be a lot shallower than they originally were dug. And
Right.
so that maintenance, if it's on private property, it falls to the property owner to maintain those ditches.
Okay.
But we will walk and remove blockages with just hand tools.
Okay, all right. Sounds like you and I are going to get to do another ditch walk sometime soon, since some of those are in fact in the public right-of-way. Thank you, as ever, Maria, for your detailed perspective on all of this. It's very helpful. But also, it makes me think about some other flooding I've been having on Altamont Road, and we've got ditches where water's running over, so we can talk about those too. I'll send you those emails. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this presentation. It's really helpful. And would you please send the slides to our clerk so we could have a digital?
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Elliott, you recognize?
Yes, I just want to take the time to thank your teams, Public Works, other first responders, be that fire, police, for stepping up and looking after our community during these rainfalls. I know it put a lot of people's lives in danger, and like your work does not go overlooked. So thank you guys so much for looking after our city. That's it. Short and sweet.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? Okay. Seeing none, we'll stand adjourned until 5 o'clock.
Okay, we do have an attorney-client.
And with an attorney-client meeting in between, yes.
Call the meeting back to order. Madam Clerk, will you please read item A, 7A?
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 31, Section 31-314, private property responsibility.
Council, can I get a motion?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Madam Clerk, let's take items B and C as a package, please.
Item B, an ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 21, Section 21-136, overgrowth. Item C, an ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 31, Section 31-37, minimum service charges.
Thank you, council. We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, moving into planning. Item A, please. 8A.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 920 Forest Avenue from RN3 residential neighborhood zone to TRN3 traditional residential neighborhood zone.
Thank you. This is planning item 2025-0053. Is the applicant present? Thank you. Is there any opposition present? Okay, this is in my district, Karen. I'd like to have a presentation, please.
Do you have a handout? One of the things that we discussed at Planning and Zoning Committee were setbacks. And so it is hard to see on the screen. I did put that in there, but I do have some handouts if you're interested in looking about the setbacks for these zones.
Thank you. That would be helpful.
So case 2025-0053 is a request to rezone 920 Forest Avenue from RN3 Residential Neighborhood Zone to TRN3 Traditional Residential Neighborhood Zone. We did cover this at committee, and so I'll be hitting many of the same items with just a few additional slides. The proposed use is single-unit detached residential, and the applicant noted the rezoning is for 3 single-unit detached dwellings with reduced setbacks. As noted at committee, the RN3 residential neighborhood zone is, and the TRN3 have a very similar mix of uses, but it's the standards where the fact that the TRN3 traditional residential neighborhood zone is more of an urban zone come into play. This is the northern portion of Forest Avenue near its intersection with Mississippi. And the development form of the area is urban residential with single-unit detached dwellings on lots that range from 2,800 square feet to 7,500 square feet. And there are a few 2- and 3-unit dwellings north and west of the site. There's no zoning history, recent zoning history from the site, but from the historic zoning maps, it appears it's been rezoned R3 and then equivalency zoned RN3 since 1990. This is a picture of the site. Picture of the site plan showing a site plan to subdivide into 3 lots. I'll note that it's 0.2 acres, so the existing lot is a little over 8,700 square feet. And so this is where if we want to, we certainly discuss this, but this is where a handout with setbacks come into play. One of the comments in the staff report was that the RN13 might be the best tool to develop here because the applicant is proposing single-unit detached uses, except that the corner setback is 15 feet, which makes development difficult. And staff is proposing to amend setbacks in the RN13 zone to better address development on small lots in the next few months. But staff found the request is compatible with adjacent land uses. In the comprehensive plan, there is not a more specific area plan for this area. The TRN3 is appropriate at this location due to the urban dimensional standards, which match the existing historic lots of record. Changing the zoning to TRN3 does not change the land use policy because the site is already zoned RN3 and the zones have similar uses. Again, the comment on the RN13. And then there was opposition, President Planning Commission. So lack of plan for development, concern about tree coverage, steep slopes, nuisance to the neighborhood. I believe there was also concerns about pedestrian safety. Planning Commission determined that the TRN3 zone is compatible with the plan, development form, and adjacent land uses, and provide a recommendation to approve. I will note that the TRN3 zone does allow a wide range of uses, and although the applicant has noted single-family detached as the preferred use, there are no conditions in place that would require that. So the full range of uses where you can meet setbacks and lot size would be available.
Thank you, Karen. In this document that you have shared with us, let's talk through the setbacks
Okay.
for these properties. So it looks like page 6 is where we start seeing setbacks?
That's right. So I try to highlight the RN3 and the TRN3. And it's hard to put on a slide since there's so much there. And so I don't believe there's been a full discussion with the applicant specifically about the TRN3 zone and what other options might be available. Or so this is, I believe, and staff had noted the corner lot setback in the RN3. Actually, it's hard to tell from that, so I printed out my zoning ordinance. The older zoning ordinance, the table's not, it's hard to read in the current Muni code. In the RN3, the minimum corner setback is 15 feet. And the TRN3, the minimum corner side setback is 10 feet. So I don't know if the plan's been drawn to accommodate those setbacks or not.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Karen, thank you, that's all. I'd like to welcome the applicant up. You have 7 minutes, but since there is no opposition, you can have 9 minutes to share your perspective on this application. And please state your name and, I believe, address for the record.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Crystal Valek, and I own the piece of property at 920 Forest Avenue. And I don't have much to say in reality. I mean, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be saying. I didn't prepare anything. I mean, obviously, I'm looking to just create construction lots. I'm sure if you guys have ever been in that area, you can see all of the new construction that's going on. I acquired this piece of property. It was my uncle's, and he's been living there for the last 45 years. So as a girl of 10 years old, I definitely remember being in North Shore. I remember siding that house, probably the same siding that's on there. So as most of you may know, the house has been condemned a few times, and it's just time for new construction in that whole area, and I'm just kind of going along with the flow.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. You can sit down. So this property has been a topic, council, of lots of conversation in District 2 over many years, probably about 2 decades. It's been a topic of conversation, and consequently, the community that has grown up around this lot has been very skeptical and concerned about any changes to the zoning for this piece of property, because this, as the applicant mentioned, it has been condemned multiple times over the years. There has been quite a bit of drug use, criminal activity that has rolled out into the neighborhood because of this. We've had hypodermic needles showing up at parks. We've had people overdosing at the local community center a block away. We have children who've been accosted walking alongside the street. And so in some ways, you would think that the community would be very excited to see the zoning be changed. However, there is a great deal of concern about any kind of change to this property without a solid plan for what would go there next, and cutting the property into smaller pieces and what might be allowed to remain. These are concerns that have been brought to me at length by the community. And one of the most important things that has been brought to me, or one of the things that's, I think, the most tangible is concern about setbacks and the fact that setbacks would be changing if we were to go into this zone. The TRN3 zone is one that is not represented within this community. And of course, like many of you, I'm very thoughtful about spot zoning. But you also know that I am a big proponent of having a variety of housing types within my district. But what's interesting about this lot is actually that it's currently zoned multifamily. It's zoned R3. So it is in an area of R3. And so is actually already prepared to provide a variety of housing and give us some options for things. And so given that the community is so concerned about cutting it into smaller lots, in lieu of beginning to go down a road of pursuing the R13, which originally I thought might have been the better option as well, I feel like this is not going to be in the best interest of District 2 to rezone this right now. And I would welcome if one of my colleagues were to make a motion to deny this. Thank you for your consideration. Councilman Henderson.
Well, hearing the reasoning behind what you have given here, and the obviously you've been in communication with your constituents, and I'm going to go with the fact that the TRN3 would not be consistent with the zoning that is around it. For that reason, I would move to deny.
Thank you, sir. Council, we have a motion on the floor to deny with a proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item B, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to lift conditions from ordinance number 10358 of previous case number 1995-0215 on part of a property located at 3945 Cromwell Road.
This is zoning planning case 2025-0067. Is the applicant present? Thank you. Do we have any opposition present? Councilman Clark, this is in your district. Would you like to have a presentation?
I know, ma'am. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, council, we have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item C.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 3210 Broad Street and 3280 William Street from CMU1 Commercial Mixed Use Zone to CMU2 Commercial Mixed Use Zone.
This is planning item 2025-0063. Is the applicant present? Thank you. Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Dotley, this is in your district.
Move to approve. Second.
Thank you. Council, we have a motion on the floor to approve with the proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item D.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 1823 Reggie White Boulevard from UIX4 Urban Industrial Zone to UCX6 Commercial Mixed Use Zone.
Thank you. This is case number 2025-0065. Do we have an applicant present? Thank you. Do we have any opposition present? Councilwoman Dotley, this is yet another project in District 7.
Another amazing project in District 7. Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Council, we have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item E.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 1500 East 14th Street from RN15 Residential Neighborhood Zone to TRN3 Traditional Residential Neighborhood Zone.
This is case number 2025-0036. Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present? Let's see, Councilman Elliott, this is in your district. There is no opposition or applicant present.
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to move to approve with conditions. Yes.
Move to approve first.
Okay, so you moved to approve. Do we have a second on that? Okay. Let's get a motion to amend, please, sir.
Am I recognized? Yeah, and I'd like to make a amendment with the following conditions.
Go ahead and read the conditions, please, sir.
There needs to be at least a 20-foot rear setback, a 10-foot side setback on the adjacent property. The building height limit should not exceed more than 28 feet. And there should be no detached units of housing. And I make all that in the form of a motion.
Second, okay. Do you have any conversation, questions? I have a question. The statement, Mr. Attorney, to have a 10-foot side setback on the adjacent property, should that just be a 10-foot side setback?
Yes,
Okay.
10-foot side setback.
Thank you. Okay, council, we have a motion on the floor to amend with conditions requiring a 20-foot rear setback, a 10-foot side setback, and a 25-foot height limitation. That is on the floor with a proper second. Do we have any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to amend passes. Can I get a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Thank you, council. We have a motion on the floor to approve as amended with a proper second. Do we have any comments or questions? All in favor to approve as amended?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve as amended passes. Thank you. Okay, we're getting good at that. Okay, item F.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, the Chattanooga zoning ordinance as adopted by ordinance number 14137 on July 23rd, 2024. B, to clarify, multi-unit developments cannot exceed 25% of total units for short-term vacation rentals. Correct residential zones, dimensional height limitation, clarify on-site tree requirements and setbacks, add institutional zone standards inside the urban overlay, and add permitted uses in the IH heavy industrial zone.
Second.
Thank you, council. We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Do you have any questions or comments? Councilman Henderson,
Sorry?
do you have any, your light
I
was?
was going to make a motion to
Okay.
approve.
All right. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, council, we are headed into resolutions. I will remind you, we are going to start taking these as packages. If you've got a problem, please go ahead and hit your light. Councilman Elliott, is that going to be a motion to approve? Or
No,
what?
I wanted to clarify something if we can. Nicole, can you read the, if this is okay, Madam Chair?
Is it related to can and cannot?
No, to the
Okay.
conditions. I want to make sure those conditions are properly read
Oh, okay.
in order. I think there may be some mix-up. Is that okay, Madam Chair?
Oh, sure. That's fine if you would like to reread them.
I have 20-foot rear setback, 10-foot side setback. This one, I do not have the exact wording, but it is a 20-foot high as far as the maximum height.
28.
Maximum 28 foot
28?
of the structure, height of the structure. And then lastly, no detached housing.
Right.
Okay, that's it. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, council, we are headed into resolutions. We're going to be taking A, B, and C as a package. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Item A, a resolution confirming the appointment of Tom Hurst to the Health, Educational, and Housing Facility Board for District 1 with a term beginning on May 14, 2025 and ending on May 13, 2031. Item B, a resolution confirming the reappointment of Ray Atkins to the Board of Zoning Appeals for District 1 with a term beginning on March 16, 2025 and ending on March 15, 2028. Item C, a resolution confirming the appointment of Cole Webster to the Sports Authority of the County of Hamilton and the City of Chattanooga for a term beginning on May 14, 2025 and ending on August 9, 2026.
Councilman Henderson.
Move approval.
Thank you. Council, we have a motion on the floor to approve with the proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we have,
Do we have any of the?
do we have any of our new confirmands here? Not tonight, but you might be out there, and if you are, we thank you very much for your service. Ray Atkins in particular has been a long-term servant of District 1. I don't know about Tom. Tom, you're great too. New blood in Tom. Thank you, Tom. Okay, going into economic development, we've got 4 items. We're going to take those as a package. Seeing no concern about that, Madam Clerk, items D through G, please.
Item D, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic Development to enter into a Greenway Farm Park Community Garden Lease and Management Agreement with Greenway Farm Garden Project and substantially the form attached for the lease and management of the community garden on a portion of Greenway Farms further identified as tax map number 110021 for a term of 3 years with the option to renew for an additional term of 2 years with an annual rent of $1. Item E, a resolution to amend resolution number 32473 to include the confirmation of the surplus of the parcels identified as tax map number 136EF020 at 2211 Davenport Street, tax map number 136EG025 at 2117 Davenport Street, and tax map number 136EG027 at 2113 Davenport Street. Item F, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic Development to execute quitclaim deeds for the conveyance of the 15 parcels identified and substantially the form attached to the approved highest bidders on properties of the City of Chattanooga and Hamilton County as acquired through previous delinquent tax sales. Item G, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of $43,735.97 from the November 2024 Hamilton County surplus property sale with $42,804.76 applied as the city's profit, $141.16 applied to the city attorney fees, $790.05 applied to the fees of the city treasurer, and authorizing the transfer of all net proceeds to the Chattanooga Land Bank Authority.
Thank you, council. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Do any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, council. Human Resources, item H, please.
A resolution authorizing revisions to the Employee Information Guide, EIG policies 2.0, general policies 5.0, recruitment 9.0, compensation 12.0, leave policies 14.0, injury on duty 15.0, vehicle use to comply with residency changes to be effective upon approval.
Thank you, council. What is your pleasure?
Move to approve. Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to approve with the proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, council, we are moving into our section with resolutions for the mayor's office. I'm going to take these all together, items I through O, Madam Clerk.
Item I, a resolution confirming Mayor Kelly's reappointment of Tom Hurst to the Community Advisory Committee, Region 1, Lookout Valley, for a term beginning on February 22nd, 2025, and ending on February 21st, 2028. Item J, a resolution confirming Mayor Kelly's appointment of Allison Johnson to the Community Advisory Committee, Region 1, Lookout Valley, for a term beginning on May 14, 2025, and ending on May 13, 2028. Item K, a resolution authorizing Mayor Kelly's reappointment of Leanne Wiles to the Community Advisory Committee, Region 3, North Chattanooga, for a term beginning on January 18, 2025, and ending on January 17, 2028. Item L, a resolution confirming Mayor Kelly's appointment of Samuel Militeo, sorry, I'm mispronouncing that right, Militeo, to the Community Advisory Committee, Region 6, Bushtown, Glenwood, for a term beginning on May 14, 2025, and ending on May 13, 2028. Item M, a resolution confirming Mayor Kelly's reappointment of Michael Varnell to the Board of Electrical Examiners for a term beginning on June 1, 2025, and ending on May 31, 2029. Item N, a resolution confirming Mayor Kelly's appointment of Paul McGinnis to the Board of Gas Examiners for a term beginning on May 14, 2025, and ending on May 13, 2027. Item O, a resolution confirming Mayor Kelly's reappointment of Benjamin Moore to the Tree Commission for a term beginning on February 10, 2025, and ending on February 9, 2029.
Thank you very much.
Second.
Thank you, council. We have a motion on the floor to approve with the proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Do we have any of our new confirmants present? Thought we had one. Thank you for your service. And I just have to say that Leanne Wiles led a presentation in District 2 alongside Jonathan Poole last week, and it is a testament to the way that communities work together. And I do want to say publicly, big thanks again to Neighborhood Services for their support of building power within our neighborhoods with neighborhood associations. It's making a real difference, so thank you. Parks and Outdoors, item P, please.
A resolution to approve the waiver of park fees for park space for the use of Ross's Landing for the following 13 Saturdays dates: 5/31, 6/7, 6/14, 6/28, 7/5, 7/12, 7/19, 7/26, 8/2, 8/9, 8/16, 8/23, 8/30, and also the Chattanooga Green for the following dates: 5/31, 6/28, 7/12, 7/26, 8/30, to Friends of the Festival for the Riverfront Nights Music Series at a value of $18,000.
Council, we have a motion on the floor to approve with the proper second. Councilman Henderson?
I was just going to make a motion to
All
approve.
right. Do we have any questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, Public Works, we're going to take these two together as a package. Items Q and R, please.
Item Q, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to approve change order number 1 for Southern Road and Bridge LLC of Tarpon Springs, Florida, relative to contract number E13002-201, Walnut Street pedestrian bridge repairs or modifications to the post-tension strands cables to full replacement with a more effective and beneficial approach for an increase in the amount of $632,250.08 with a contingency in the amount of $12,678.48 for a revised total amount of $35,292,814.56. Item R, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to award contract number Y23005-201 Avondale Head Start Roof Replacement to Tri-State Roofing Contractors, LLC, of Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the amount of $464,726, with a contingency in the amount of $46,500 for a total amount of $511,226.
Cool. All right, council.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, let's take a look at our purchases this evening, council.
Good evening, council.
Hello.
We have 4 purchases recommended for approval this evening. The first one is for technology services. They are requesting an increase of $3,000 to cover invoices for the remainder of fiscal year '25. The new annual estimated spend will be $1,163,000. Number 2 is for fleet. This is a one-time purchase of 4 Volkswagen ID4 electric vehicles in the amount of $186,118.92. This purchase is utilizing the Sourcewell contract. Number 3 is for Public Works. This is a 2-year renewal. Vulcan Materials is requesting a 7% increase due to the cost of materials. The new estimated annual spend will be $980,000. Public Works has approved the increase. And number 4 is also for Public Works. This is a new blanket agreement for fence installation, repairs, and rentals. This will be a 4-year agreement not to exceed $2 million annually. The award will go to King's Development and River City Fence as the best bids for the city of Chattanooga.
Thank you, council. We have a motion on the floor to approve with the proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, I have one sole source to report. This is for Public Works. This is the purchase, this purchase is for $29,152.45 for Safer Roads bikeway pavement marking on 14th Street.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we've reached the time for committee reports. We'll start on this end this side this time. Councilman Henderson.
I have no report.
Councilman Davis.
Parks and Public Works Committee met today as part of our 3:30 agenda session, and we received the proclamation regarding National Public Works Week and also a stormwater system performance report. Thank you to Mark Heinzer and Maria Price for that.
Thank you. Councilman Harvey.
No report.
Councilman Clark.
No report.
Thank you. Councilman Elliott.
No report.
Councilwoman Dotley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did have a budget education session, our first one today. We'll have another session next Tuesday, starting at 9 a.m. to 12:30. In addition to that, we will have our public hearing at 3:30. Just want to make people aware of that. Thank you, and thank you, council, for enduring the day with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Burrs.
No report.
Vice Chairwoman Knoll.
No report.
Thank you very much. All right, we've reached the point in our meeting where we will recognize persons who wish to address the council. If you are here to address the council, please line up behind the podium and listen while our attorney reads the rules.
Yes, ma'am. At the end of each council business meeting, the chair will recognize members of the public who wish to address the council, and here's your rules. Each speaker wishing to address the council can only be recognized at the microphone up front provided for that purpose. Can't have more than 3 minutes to speak, and you can address the council only upon matters which are within their legislative and quasi-judicial authority and not on matters which are not under their authority and are regulated by other governmental bodies or agencies. Do not engage in vulgar or obscene language, nor use the floor to personally attack or personally denigrate others, and address your comments to the council as a whole and not make comments directed towards individual council members. And lastly, do not engage in disorderly conduct or disrupting a public meeting, which is prohibited by Tennessee law, and someone commits that offense if a person substantially obstructs or interferes with the meeting by physical action or verbal utterance with the intent to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting or gathering. Having stated those rules, please go ahead, Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney, and good afternoon, council. From WVL News, I'm Monty Bell reporting. It's official, $211 billion, $34 million must, shall, and will be paid to citizen Monty D. Bell of the state of Tennessee. Here's why. When the former chief of staff, Jermaine Freeman, from the office of the Chattanooga City Mayor's office, admitted to co-citizen on March the 12th of 2025 that the office of the city attorney, the Chattanooga City Council, voting unanimously, collaborating with the entire 11th Judicial District Court, that they have consciously and intentionally violated the 5th, the 13th, the 14th Amendment, Monty bail. The charges are criminal. And I have more from the mouth of your former chief of staff.
I don't think that, Mr. Bell, they don't, if you notice, you were the only person that speaks in that the counsel or that the attorney feels compelled to sort of say something back to. Like everybody else that goes up there.
You can't do that. You can't single Monty bail out. You're admitting that they're violating the law.
What I'm saying.
In other corrupt local government news, the county attorney, the county chair, censorship, disrespect, violating the entire United States Supreme Court is more.
Every case that I filed, it either went in her office or Ruben Taylor's briefcase. And I even got one up here about Jamie Ponce-Cornell before she came in and got a year's training out of this office, whatever the training was. And out of our office? Yeah. I've met her one time. I've never seen her. She's under contract for a whole year. For the
Have you seen her? You're listening to WBEL News.
I don't think that, Mr. Bell, they don't, if you notice, you were the only person that speaks in that the counsel or that the attorney feels compelled to sort of say something back to. Like everybody else that goes up there.
You can't do that. You can't single Monty bail out. You're admitting that they're violating the law.
What I'm saying.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Joshua David Capellish. I'm an advocate for unsheltered citizens in this community. This week is National Police Week. Can we get a round of applause for our police, please? What is a civil society? What is an uncivil society? Is Chattanooga a civil society? It's because of our brave men and women that we call police officers that we realize the effect of civility because of good laws when enforced. When there's chaos in the streets, who do we call? Is it the Ghostbusters or the president? I sure would hate to call my mama because she would come after you the same way she came after me. She taught me how to walk and run. We call 911 every time, and as Americans, we demand and expect individuals to dedicate their entire lives to protect us at a moment's notice with their lives. Is that not love? Is that not service with integrity? Chattanooga police officers deserve a raise, not as a budget line item, but as a sign of thanks, respect, and continued reward. If the golf course can get a $330,000 raise, why can't we pay our most important people in our society a living wage to be proud of? In the Bible, Romans 13:3, it states that rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Do you want to be unafraid of the authority? Do what is good, and you will receive praise from the same. For he is God's minister to you for good, but if you do evil, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is God's minister, an avenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil. A pay raise will increase officer retention, lower training costs, and improve the services these wonderful people provide 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If police pay reflected the crime rate in Chattanooga, maybe our crime rate would go down and officer retention would go up. And I was notified too of an officer ceremony this Friday at 10 o'clock at the Hamilton County Courthouse to honor fallen officers in this community. It'd be great if y'all could attend. I'm not a police officer myself. I'm just a concerned citizen looking at the crime rates of the city and where I want to land in terms of what's safest and what's best for the long-term continued efforts of everyone in this society. And I think everyone, nobody likes to get pulled over. Nobody likes to get inconvenienced. And I can tell you, it's very hard to wear a uniform, not as a police officer. I was in the military, but I guarantee you, as a police officer, it's much more demanding and unpredictable than it is in the military. And a lot of times, we as civilians don't give the proper respect to people in our society that create the convenience that we all get to appreciate. Because when there's an accident on the highway or something like that, we know who to call and we know who's going to show up. God bless you all, and God bless Chattanooga.
Thank you.
Test, 1, 2, 3. Hi, I'm Daniel Dufour, and I live at 1610 West 51st Street. I'm also here in my personal capacity. First of all, I want to thank City Council for taking the time to hear from the public. I know it's been a long day. It's also what democracy is all about, hearing from the public. I also want to thank everyone else who made it here today. Some of you had to take time off of work to be here. Thank you. A wise person once said, if you want to see a city's values, look at their budget. I think that's true. The new city budget has got a lot of great things in there, but there's a few things missing. And I want to talk to you about one of those today. If you search for the word open data, you won't find it in the budget. It's not there. In other words, the current budget, as submitted, eliminates our city's open data program. And I'll repeat that because I heard that kind of emphasizes things. It eliminates our city's open data program. Now, I don't think that was intentional. I think it's a mistake. It was an oversight. Open data is fundamental to government transparency and accountability. Many maps and dashboards that the community makes are built on open data from the open data program. So my plea to you today is please restore the open data program. Thank you.
Hello again. My name is Aaron Welch. I live at 1001 North Natchez Road. The last time I came up here to speak, I described a situation that we have here at the city that I found incredibly distressing. And today, I want to go through kind of how we got here as quickly as I can. I have been working at the city for just over a year as the director of security. I have worked with the city attorney. I have worked with the police department and both of our chiefs. And I have worked with every department within the city to maintain the security and to maintain the security of the city. It is a difficult and thankless job, as some people made glaringly apparent as employees of the city of Chattanooga roasted me on Reddit today. I'm not the person who has to agree with everyone. I'm the person who has to sit in the chief of police office and have him be frustrated with me as I tell him no, and then justify that, why that's no. I'm the person who's responsible to third parties outside of the city, such as the TBI and the FBI, when it comes to data security for the police department. I'm also responsible for our critical infrastructure, and that is our wastewater treatment plant. So, when I did the audit last year in June, I took it very seriously. I did everything that I was supposed to. I dotted every I and I crossed every T. When we did not get the response that we needed, I escalated. And then I escalated again. And then I escalated again. I made it all the way up to the mayor's office. When I came here to speak last week, it was the last-ditch effort to get someone to listen. We have issues with regards to data security at the wastewater treatment plant. It has to be addressed. When Mark Heinzer was here earlier today and he put up the slide that shows our VT SCADA system, that is one piece of information hackers didn't have until today. That is what a director of security's role is to let people know when they're doing something that they shouldn't, such as telling an outside party what system we use to manage and control all of our critical infrastructure systems. And it was up in the little corner. We told them what system we used. That was my role. I did everything that I was supposed to do. And then last week I was told, not only is my job gone, but because I was here to speak, that I would no longer be allowed to continue to do that job and that I would be put on administrative leave. It's non-punitive, but I do have to question whether or not that's actually accurate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, council. My name is R.C. Reeves, and I want to do two things. I want to introduce myself to the new council. I'm in District 5. I'm at 1314 Learning Lane, and that is in the Woodmore community and also Shawnee Hills community. I did have a couple of things that I wanted to mention. As we're seeing increase in density across the city, I want to make sure that we are spending funds in the right places when it comes to infrastructure. So today we heard some discussions around raw sewage in some of the areas. We also heard about some of the runoff, and I've had some discussions here about some of the standing water that we have with all the heavy floods in my area, particularly at the Northmore Road area, and I've discussed that with my council person as well. And then also, I know on the meeting that you all had, I guess a week or so ago, there was like a small mention around our landfill and how we really need to look at expansion there. So what I wanted to do is just take a few minutes to make sure that you all are not looking at those things separately, that you kind of put those all together and understand that that is par for the course for a city that is growing. And so I would just ask, as you all go through your budget review, that we make sure that we are looking at those three items for the sewer, landfill, and also making sure that we are moving water properly across the city. Because otherwise, if we don't have those things in place, then we will basically have miserable residents here in the city. And then the other piece is around the landfill. I know obviously expansion is what we would probably have to look at because it sounds like we're spending a lot of money to send trash other areas. But I also wanted to suggest to you all maybe that we could have something in the city that would encourage residents to reduce trash, increase recycling, so that we can show that we're a good steward to what we have here in the city. And I'm open to any ideas or thoughts that you all have. And I appreciate all of the work that you all are doing. I look forward to working with you all. And I do travel the valley, so even when I'm not here, I do watch online. And I am vocal in a support of our city. So if you all need anything from me, please let me know. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Do you have anyone else who would like to address the council? Council, I don't see anyone. Thank you. We are adjourned.